Welcome to the second Osage News Debates hosted by the staff of the Osage News.
The candidate will have 3 minutes to answer each question and 1 minute for rebuttal. Candidates will answer in the order according to the number they have drawn, which we're going to do in just a minute. A volunteer from the League of Women Voters will warn you when you have 30 seconds left. And I will stop a candidate when the time is up. As the moderator, my job is to make sure that each candidate takes their turn in answering the question and also make sure all candidates have a chance for their 1 minute rebuttal. The moderator also reserves the right to shorten the answer periods if we have a time problem. Candidates may choose to pass on a question rather than answering any question, and may also pass when they are given the 1 minute for rebuttal. Candidates will be offered time for rebuttal in the same order in which they responded to the question. All answers will remain civil, and candidates will refrain from personal attacks on another candidate. As a moderator, I have the right to disqualify any candidate who cannot adhere to this rule from further debate. So is that clear to everyone? And would you give me your name? Number one is okay. Number two is
Becky Johnson.
Johnson.
Thomas.
Thomas.
Olivia Gray.
Okay.
Maria Whitehorn.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to draw the first question. I understand that you do not know the questions in advance. You know the general topics that are going to be covered. Can everybody hear me okay? First question. And this would be Mr. Lynn. What is your understanding of the separation of powers, and more specifically, your approach to the exercise of congressional powers? Please be specific.
My understanding of the separation of powers?
Yes, your understanding of the separation of powers.
Okay, my understanding is pretty straightforward. We have a legislative branch which drafts laws, we have an executive branch that carries out those laws. Can you give me the second part again, please?
And more specifically, your approach to the exercise of congressional powers.
Without something specific to apply that to, I'm not really sure how to answer that. My approach to congressional powers is to address problems through laws, through lawmaking. When necessary, to engage in informative hearings or whatever is needed. Like I said, without a specific problem or issue to face, it would be hard to address that.
All right, number two, Ms. Johnson. My understanding of the separation of powers is that we have a three-branch government. There's the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. And the congressional branch, which is legislative, creates laws that are necessary to carry out the requirements of our Constitution. And in all matters, they should be considering the will of the people, because our power is derived from the people as a government, and all laws should be for the good of the whole. Now, the judicial branch, the executive branch then takes those laws and executes them, implements them pursuant to the Constitution and the laws set down by Congress. The judicial branch's role in all of this is to interpret those laws in times of conflict, whether it be for a person who has violated law or whether there's disagreement between the executive and the legislative branch.
Thank you. Number 3, Ms. Thomas.
My understanding of the government is that it's a three-branch form of government. Congress passes laws, makes appropriation, and provides oversight to the laws. Executive carries out the laws and administers the day-to-day business of the government. And judicial provides resolves disputes between the individuals, and I think they're primary in resolving disputes between the roles of Congress and executive. And my approach to the separation of powers is I think they need to have very defined roles, and I think for a new government, I think we're still in the process of defining those roles, and I think that as time goes on, we'll be much clearer on those roles, and if I'm elected to Congress, that'll be part of my agenda.
Thank you. Number 4, Ms. Gray.
Well, again, the separations of powers gives each one of our branches very specific functions. And like the other 2 ladies to my right have said, the legislative branch makes the laws. The executive branch implements and enforces those laws, and the judicial branch will interpret those laws if there's a dispute over the meaning. So as far as Congress goes, and what I believe the exercise of congressional powers would be that we write those laws, we also appropriate money. And so in that capacity, we have to look at annual plans for different departments. We have to ask questions of those departments, and then we appropriate money. So there are kind of, 2 functions there with Congress. And that's kind of the easy answer. Of course, we know in real life it gets a little more complicated sometimes.
5th candidate, Mr. Shunkamolah.
I said it before, the judicial branch, the executive branch are part of it, but the Congress legislative side, they do appropriate money and they do create laws. But the legislative branch in the government world represents the polity of the government, which is the people, and represents what they stand for and what they feel are the needs and what are the best things for the nation. And that's what the legislative branch was set for. They represent the polity. They appropriate money on behalf of the nation, what we think as the nation is best. So that's what that means to me when I read the Constitution, and if elected, that's what I plan to do and execute.
Ms. Whitehorn.
I do understand the separation of powers in our government, like 3-part government, the legislative branch and the congressional, which is Congress, and the judicial branch and the executive branch. They all have separate powers. The executive administrates the law that the legislative branch makes, and the judicial resolves problems. My approach to carry out congressional powers would be to listen to the people, to see what the people need for their laws. Once I heard somebody say that they could not listen to everything that went on the internet and on the blogs, and I thought, well, they couldn't legislate by listening. And I know that's a narrow band of people, but that's what congressional members need to do. They need to listen to how we can best serve the people, what you want, what your needs are. And we write the law, we appropriate the funds to implement programs once the laws are written, and we have oversight. And I think there's a line between the executive administering and the legislative branch using their oversight powers. I think it's something that needs to happen on the front end of legislation. You need to do the study, you need to look at the people, how to appropriate and make the correct rules so you aren't having to do it on the back side. So, thank you.